Imagine a normal workday, a routine you know well, until suddenly everything changes. You disappear without a trace, and when least expected, 30 years later you return. But to you, it feels like not a single day has passed. It sounds like a sci-fi movie plot, right? But this is the reality of Vasile Gorgos, a Romanian farmer who in 1991 left for one of his usual trips and simply vanished. 3 decades later, he returned as if nothing had happened, wearing the same clothes, carrying the same documents, and confidently stating that he had always been home. But what really happened during those 30 years? How did he survive? And most importantly, where was he all this time? Today, we are going to explore this enigma that defies logic, mixing facts, speculations, and theories ranging from psychological disorders to alien abductions. Get ready because the mystery of Vasile Gorgos's disappearance and reappearance will leave you intrigued and with more questions than answers. Can we unravel this mystery together? Buckle up, because from now on, every detail might be a key piece to understanding what really happened to Vasile. Shall we embark on this enigmatic journey together? Vasile Gorgos was an ordinary man, well known in the small rural community where he lived in Romania. At 63, he dedicated himself to farming, tending to his cattle, and living a simple, peaceful life. His trips to nearby markets to sell cattle were an essential part of his routine, something he did regularly that never raised suspicion. He was a family man, always in touch with his loved ones, always informing them when he left and when he expected to return. He was not the type to do anything out of the ordinary, which makes his disappearance all the more enigmatic. What could have happened for such a predictable and responsible man to vanish without a trace? This is the starting point of the mystery we are about to explore. The day Vasile disappeared began like any other. He prepared for one of his short trips, leaving to sell some of his best cattle. He informed his family, as he always did, and left without haste, taking only the essentials, his documents and the clothes on his back. But this time, he didn't return. As the hours passed, the lack of any communication from Vasile began to worry his family. Something was clearly wrong. Hours turned into days, and the family's apprehension grew with each passing moment. It was as if Vasile had vanished into thin air. There were no signs of struggle, no evidence of an accident, nothing to suggest where he might have gone. What could have happened between the moment he left home and the point where he simply disappeared? This is the question that begins to take shape, leading to the anxiety and uncertainty that followed. With Vasile's disappearance, the family and the community immediately mobilized efforts to find him. The police were called in, and the search began with an intensity that only increased as the days passed. They scoured roads, forests, and nearby villages, interviewed people, and investigated leads, but nothing made sense. Every new effort seemed only to reinforce the inexplicable. Vasile Gorgos had disappeared without a trace. As weeks turned into months and months into years, the hope of finding Vasile faded. The searches became sporadic and eventually ceased, leaving only a void and a question no one could answer. Where was Vasile Gorgos? This absence lasted for 30 years, an immense and agonizing gap in his family's life, until, equally mysteriously, he reappeared. Imagine the scene: an ordinary morning in September 2021, when once again, the Gorgos family's life is turned upside down. After 30 years of silence, Vasile Gorgos mysteriously reappeared at the door of his farm. To the family, it was like seeing a ghost. He was exactly as he had been on the day he disappeared, wearing the same clothes, with the same documents in his pocket, as if time had frozen. The news quickly spread throughout the community, and everyone was astonished. It was as if time had stopped for Vasile, but for the world around him, 3 decades had passed. The mix of relief and bewilderment was immediate, but soon gave way to urgent questions. Where had he been? How had he returned? And most importantly, why did he seem to remember nothing? When questioned by the family about where he had been all these years, Vasile couldn't offer a coherent explanation. His answer was always the same: I have always been home. To him, he hadn't disappeared, and the 30 years that had passed simply didn't exist. This statement intrigued everyone even more. How could someone lose 3 decades of their life without realizing it? Could this be a form of mental protection, a response from the brain to cope with extreme trauma. What became even more disturbing were Vasilei's memory lapses, which seemed confined only to the period during which he had disappeared. He remembered everything before 1991, but the following 30 years were a complete blank. This psychological enigma added an extra layer of mystery to the case, leaving everyone puzzled and without answers. On the day of Vasilei's reappearance, some witnesses reported seeing a car drop off the farmer in front of his home. The vehicle, described as an old model, quickly disappeared, with no one able to note the license plate or identify the driver. Who could have been in that car, and why would they drop Vasilei there without explanation after 3 decades of disappearance? These details only heightened the sense of mystery. Why would someone wait so long to return Vasilei? Was this person or group responsible for his disappearance? The questions continued to multiply, and the lack of concrete answers only fueled more speculation and bizarre theories. Soon after his return, Vasilei was taken to doctors and specialists for a full evaluation. Surprisingly, he was in good overall health, especially for someone of his advanced age. However, the tests revealed some neurological problems common in a 93-year-old man, such as memory lapses. But what intrigued the experts was the specificity of these lapses, which seemed to be confined exclusively to the period he had been missing. No scientific or medical explanation seemed sufficient to clarify what had happened. Some theories were proposed, but all seemed inadequate in the face of the strangeness of the case. Thus, the mystery surrounding Vasilei Gorgos persisted, defying logic and leaving both experts and onlookers equally perplexed. One of the first theories raised after Vasilei Gorgos's reappearance was that he might have been leading a double life or had been imprisoned under another identity. Those who support this theory argue that the sudden disappearance and equally mysterious reappearance could be explained by a second lifestyle, hidden from his family and community. Perhaps Vasilei had another life in a distant city, a second family, or even businesses that needed to be kept secret. Another possibility is that he committed a crime, was imprisoned, and for some unknown reason managed to keep this part of his life hidden until, for some reason, he was returned to his former life. But if this were the case, why would he be wearing the same clothes and carrying the same documents? And how could he have hidden such a secret for so long? The lack of concrete evidence makes this theory possible, but still full of gaps and questions that make it hard to fully believe. Another hypothesis that gained traction is that Vasilei might suffer from dissociative identity disorder, a rare and complex condition where a person develops multiple identities or personalities, each with its own memories and behaviors. In this scenario, Vasilei could have lived another life during the period he was missing, but in a different identity, separate from his original self. Upon returning, he may have switched back to his original identity with no recollection of what happened during the years he was missing. This theory could explain his statement that he had always been home, as his perception of time would have been deeply altered. However, it is still a challenging explanation, and like the previous theory, it doesn't fully account for all the details of the case. Among the more speculative and paranormal explanations, the theory of alien abduction has gained attention. According to this theory, Vasilei Gorgos could have been abducted by extraterrestrials, taken to a different dimension or world, and then returned to Earth 30 years later. This theory attempts to explain the time anomaly, as well as Vasilei's apparent lack of aging and his memory lapses. Stories of alien abduction often include reports of missing time, unexplained gaps in memory, and strange reappearances, which align with elements of Vasilei's case. Although this theory is far from being scientifically proven, it has captivated the imagination of those who believe that the answer to Vasilei's mystery might lie beyond Earth. Finally, there is the hypothesis that Vasilei may have experienced a temporal anomaly, where time behaved in a nonlinear or distorted manner. In this scenario, Vasilei could have been caught in a time loop, a wormhole, or some other phenomenon that caused him to skip 30 years without realizing it. This would explain why he seemed unchanged, as well as his confusion upon returning. Temporal anomalies are rare and poorly understood phenomena that often appear in science fiction, but some believe that they could happen in the real world, albeit in ways we do not yet comprehend. Could Vasile have been an unwitting traveler through time? The idea is intriguing, even though it lies on the fringes of accepted scientific theories. The case of Vasile Gorgas is undoubtedly one of the strangest and most puzzling of recent times. His story defies simple explanations and forces us to consider possibilities beyond our understanding. Will we ever discover what really happened? In the meantime, all we can do is speculate and imagine the various possibilities. And you, what do you think? Where was Vasile during those 30 years? Was it an escape, an abduction, or something even more inexplicable? Leave your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more mysteries like this. If you enjoyed this video, I recommend you watch our next content about another mysterious disappearance that defies comprehension. Click here to watch, and get ready for another story that will leave you intrigued.